Okay, guys, today I am so excited because I get to have a sit down chat with Tonya Williams. This is going to be so exciting for me because obviously, Young and Restless, you were a character on that show for so many years. You played Dr. Olivia Barber Winters. So, how are you? Thank you for joining me
Oh,
today.
I'm great. Thank you. It's so funny because there are people that still completely identify me with that role. And I haven't actually worked on the show since 2009. And my entire world is a completely other thing, which is, my company, Real World Film Festival and Real World Screen Institute. So it
Yeah.
is funny for me because I'm an executive director and I run my company and I do not consider myself the actress in that role anymore. So it's very different. But I'm pleased to be doing both things.
Of course, yeah. I feel
To be
like
known
the
as
character itself obviously was so memorable, which is why like people probably remember you as that character in itself. But obviously, like you mentioned, you've gone on to do some really, really incredible things. And that's why I wanted a chance to chat with you today because here at KISS for Black History Month, we want to talk to change makers, people who have been trailblazers for the community and for people across the world. And I feel like somebody like you stands and represents all of that. So I want to talk about, your career a little bit, how you started off in acting and like, why did you decide that that was the first thing career wise you wanted to get into?
I'm a big believer in that there is a higher power and we follow that journey. So acting was not anything I thought about at all. I've always been an obsessive, I'm an only child, so I'm an obsessive television, film watcher, but never in the way that I thought, oh, this is something I want to do with my life. Not that way at all. But story, I'm big in storytelling. My mother loves to tell the story. I think it was only about two and a half or three. And my parents read to me every single night, but there was one book that she said every night, I feel like she said, I feel like I read that book 5 times every night. Story has been a place where I escape. It's the place where I've made sense of the world.
Mhm.
But my real first love was music and classical music. So I played from the age of 5 to 17. I played the piano and the violin and the tenor sax. Somehow when I was 16, my mother had thought 16 was the time that a young woman either went to finishing school, because this is back in the time when finishing schools were, or but she had found a modeling course, not because she thought I would become a model or anything in the industry, but the course itself was about, how you walk, how you sit, how you do your makeup properly. So just on the summers, when I would have the time, I would do some catalog and do some commercials, but still, honestly, no concept that I was going to do this with my life or my career. This was just some fun.
Yeah.
But as I was in the industry and meeting some other actors and talking more about the craft of acting and hearing about the schools they went to, I think I started to get more of an interest of understanding what this entire business was.
Mhm.
And after high school, I took a year off where I was working consistently mostly in TV commercials and small roles through the agency. But then I went to Ryerson. I Those were the days you had to audition to get into the program. I don't know if it's the same way.
Mhm.
4,000 people auditioned and they picked 40 from across Canada, of which I was one
Wow.
of. The only Black person. I'm usually the only Black person in most of the history of my life.
Yeah.
And then I started studying acting seriously for the first time.
Mhm.
And that was really the best time of my life. But because we're talking about this and it's Black History Month, it's also about a young person myself who grew up not seeing myself represented on screen. I was born in 1958, so we're talking in the early 60s, and the 60s was the most influential time of my life watching TV, watching shows like Bonanza or Tarzan, or, those were the shows at the time. And the Black people were, if they were ever any, were certainly not the representation wasn't very positive. Um, they were the butts of jokes, or they were the, carrying the spears. And I found it embarrassing as a Black person because luckily my parents were both, professionals, and the friends I had and the schools I went to, I did see Black people there, but on the screens, no. And I say it's something that most young people will talk about, you want to see yourself, not only yourself reflected, but you want to see people that look like you in positions that you can aspire to be.
You brought up a really interesting point about when you were watching TV, representation, A, was an issue, but also Black characters were the butt of a lot of jokes, right?
Yeah.
So when you were an actress, do you feel like the characters that you played were like token characters, or do you feel like they were strong Black characters for all the right reasons?
I feel like many of the auditions that were presented were those kind of very negative. I don't even think tokenized. They were more like they were just very negative, and those I turned down. But the ones that I did take, I felt proud to be a part of. Those were positive. So when you see me on a show like Polka Dot Door, I was very proud of Polka Dot Door because I was a Black person representing in a very positive way for a lot of preschoolers who had maybe some of them had never even seen a Black person before. So that kind of thing warms my heart. I'm very proud of that kind of a work. When I did Young and the Restless, I played a doctor, but it wasn't just the profession, it was the values that I had and the kind of storylines I had. I remember I won an award when I started into Y&R I think it's called the Black Women's Physicians of America or something like that, because they said my portrayal of the doctor on The Young and the Restless had upped young Black women wanting to be doctors 400%.
Wow.
And that's the kind of impact you want to have as someone in the industry. You want to inspire young people and sort of help them move forward in their lives. Representation does matter. They say it as a slogan, but it really does. If you want to change your community around you, then what you see on TV, what you hear on the radio, from the music to all the shows, it really can either improve your community or make your community more negative.
Television and media in general plays such an important role, an impactful role in the opinions that people form. And one thing I love that you said was, for auditions that seem like the character was just negative in general, you would turn it down. And not a lot of people would do that, especially when you want to get into the industry and you want to get your foot in the door. Sometimes any character is what you want because you just want to get started. But obviously, you had a lot of experience and many, many years in the soap industry. So what was that industry like, being a Black woman in that industry? Did you find it welcoming at all?
Well, I'd done quite a bit of television before I started Young and the Restless. So for me, it did not feel any different than any other. I mean, a set is a set, and a set is never as welcoming if several things are in place. One, if there are no other people that look like you from the crew to the hair and makeup to the production office, if you don't see anyone that looks like you, it's already not welcoming.
Right.
Even if they're trying to be welcoming, because it sends a message of, I'm the only one here, how welcome could this place be? That's one. Going to a hair and makeup room, whether it's a soap opera or any other place, if hair and makeup people have never done people who are Black, if they say they don't have a base that is for your color, a foundation, if they have no hair paraphernalia where they don't have the special kind of hot combs or product or whatever you need for your hair, that is unwelcoming. That is saying, wow, we love that you're here, but we've not really prepared for you in any way, shape or form.
Right.
If you're reading any writing, the screenwriters, if you know none of the writers are people of color, and if you know they're writing about something in your culture it doesn't make any sense, that you have to talk to them, that's something that other actors don't have to do. So I would say those were the same. It wasn't like it was unique to a soap opera set. It was unique to any set that I had ever been on in my life. But what I love is, as I had time at Y&R, because I was there for 19 years, changes were made. So when you are part of the cast, and I love when I started, I wasn't the only one. We had a full cast. I had a sister. I had someone that would eventually be my love interest. She had someone to be her love interest. We had an aunt. They were building a family. We eventually had children. I had parents on there. So when you build a family like that, and you have to remember, a lot of the industry is money based.
Right.
So they may not get a whole hair person, makeup person, or whatever for one actor. But when you start having an entire family, they do. So they did start incorporating. They brought on people that knew how to do Black hair, brought on people who knew how to do Black makeup, or Black people, not Black makeup, makeup for Black people. And then And then they brought writers on the show, and then you started seeing crew members getting more diverse, and camera guys getting more diverse, and the producers of the show getting more diverse. So I think the change can happen gradually.
Mm-hmm.
But when I speak to a lot of very young people today, and they're still complaining, which they should be,
Mm-hmm.
they can't remember. They have no concept of what it might have been like for me 45 years ago.
When you first started off in the industry and throughout your career, were there any specific roadblocks that you faced that you felt helped to like develop your character in general?
I address any project, anything that I'm doing is going to be fraught with roadblocks and challenges and barriers. That's just a given. So I don't even think about that. I think about what I need to do. How do I explain this? It's like, I feel that everything we're doing is really, you look at it like a game with a set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
Some people spend all their time changing the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's positive, by the way, but that's not really my way.
Mm-hmm.
My way is I just need to learn the rules. And once I've learned your set of rules, I navigate myself around your rules to get to where I need to get to. But I need to understand what the rules are. So there were very clear rules. Rules are Black people don't do these kinds of roles. So
Mhm.
then my job is to move around that concept, and everything I'm doing is constantly proving that Black people do these kind of roles.
Yeah.
Without me saying it. You have to show things. I think saying things is usually not as poignant. I think showing something is what is more poignant. So once somebody sees you in the spotlight of the very thing they told you is not what Black people do, then they'll come around.
You went on to actually like direct and executive produce. So why did you want to make that switch from acting to that career path now? And was it important for you to take charge of stories that were being told and tell stories that you felt would be beneficial to society?
Yeah, that's the lofty way of thinking about it. And I like that thinking, and I probably have that in my head. But really, at the end of the day, I'm just curious.
Mhm.
So I may go, what is it like to direct something? And go down that path. And I also love the fact that I can say, don't like that.
Yeah, fair.
It's the only way to know. And then I might go, oh, what might it be like to produce something? And then I might do it, and I might go, not sure I like that. Or there's so many different kinds of producers. So I might go, I don't like that to be that kind. But I think you have to, explore things before you know for sure what you like or you don't like. And it's not like I didn't like producing or didn't like directing, but now I realize there's a way I like to do it
Mhm.
that I would only do it again if I could do it in those particular ways. So it's just a process. So for me, starting Real World Film Festival and Real World Screen Institute, that was back in 2001. I did not expect I'd be doing it 21 years later, but I started it as a process of, can I make a difference? Could I actually, it really came out of, by then I was already 25 years in the industry, and I
Mhm.
would get so many people going, how did you get in the industry? How do you start? How do I get my project? How do I blah, blah, blah? And it's not possible for me to answer each person's question
Right, like on an individual
on an
basis.
individual basis.
Yeah.
Even if it took my whole lifetime, I couldn't do it. So my idea was, how can I come up with, how can I use this energy to create a platform that can create that dialogue with lots of people? So I'm not the only road, it's like lots of different people. And that's really how Real World started. It was, I wanted to create this festival and this institute that other people who were vastly more experienced than me, other people who had great experience, where they could be on a stage even, and a lot of people could be in an audience that could be hearing different answers, because there's not one road in this industry. I'm sure you know that for yourself. You can tell someone exactly how you got to where you are today, and it will be of no use to them. Everyone has a very different path and a different road. All you can do is arm yourself with the right tools, and so that once you get there, you're just going to find that path sort of for yourself, but at least you'll have the right tools to do it.
Oh, 100%. So for people who don't really have much knowledge about what Access Real World is, can you get into that? Like, what is the goal of Access Real World? Obviously, you just touched on how you started it. So, yeah, give us some more intel onto that project.
Absolutely. So what I love about this now is, first we had Real World Film Festival, and that started in 2001. By 2002, we had Real World Screen Institute. So the festival is a festival that we only screen Black, Indigenous, people of color who are Canadian,
Hmm.
only Canadian
Cool.
filmmakers.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for them to build community. So we get filmmakers from across Canada. We get Canadian filmmakers that are living outside of Canada even, but they're Canadian. Then the Institute, which we started in 2002, that was for workshops. We created incubator programs, like writers' workshops, producing workshops, all kinds of different things that we do under that program. Currently, we have an LA Consulate, I'll call, event where 20 producers who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, who have had projects incubated through Reelworld over the years, are going to be virtually coming to Hollywood and meeting a lot of people down here to start their building of relationships. So that's something we have under the Institute. Another thing is we have an E20, it's called Emerging 20 program. So we get hundreds of people. Submissions will be opening up for that in about another week or two. We get lots of people that submit of the ideas. You have to be Black, Indigenous. When I say people of color, Asian, South Asian, Middle Eastern, Latin American, Canadians who have projects, they submit. We pick 20 and then we work with them through the year so that they can pitch to different mentors and broadcasters and distributors that we set them up with. That's all through the Institute. Even right now, we have a Real World Producers program. We've chosen 12 budding producers from across Canada. Some of them never produced, but they have skill sets, meaning they've worked in distribution or they're an entertainment lawyer. They're well, they're well educated. We've got them from Prince Edward Island to Vancouver. We've got these 12, and they're now in a 12-month workshop, which kicks off with Primetime Ottawa. That's coming up like now. We're in the process of it right now, actually. And then last summer, we launched Access Reelworld, and that is a hiring, recruiting database platform. We're looking for people to go to accessreelworld.ca, sign up if you're in the screen industry. We have over 100 categories there. Remember, the screen industry also has drivers, location managers, caterers, wardrobe people, hair. It is not just actors and directors and writers and producers. There are a lot of people in this industry. If you're a medic, there are people who work on set medics or set tutors for kids we want Black, Indigenous, people of color to have opportunity in every bit of this industry. This is a way to do it. There's also a place to post jobs. So our members who are signed up, by the way, it's free to sign up. Let's remember that. So anyone interested or in the screen industry, union, non-union, you should make your way to accessreelworld.ca. The only thing is you have to be Black, Indigenous, person of color, and Canadian.
But it's so cool that you took initiative and you're like, hey, obviously people of color and Indigenous people and Black people obviously need much more of a spotlight on them in the industry in specific, but obviously across all industries itself. So within a year, because obviously this is still a relatively new thing, within a year, how have you seen the program like directly impact Black, Indigenous Canadians and people of color within Canada? And were there any like success stories that really stuck out to you?
I would say that what I've definitely seen is the database has been helpful for white Canada to find that talent. A lot of times we heard that complaint over the years. We would hire more diverse people. We don't know where they are. We can't find them.
Right.
So this has eliminated that. That's one. But also racially diverse people finding each other. We forget about that too.
Yes.
And people don't always just want to hire from their own race. So sometimes Black people would like to hire on some Indigenous people, some Asian people, some Middle Eastern people. I think there's a lack of real community within the screen industry. And there's a lot of people that feel like they're outsiders in it. And I think something like this platform allows them to feel like I am part of it. I am in a group. I have access to reach the people, because on Access Reelworld, they don't even have to put their actual email addresses. There's a way you can click the person and it sends them a message. So it's all about community, really. And our industry is very much about that.
This industry, the entertainment industry, is a business, right? And a lot of the times we obviously are strong believers that diversity, inclusivity is such an integral part of this business, this entertainment industry. But for people who are looking at it from an outside point of view and like, oh, it doesn't make a difference in the world of business, what would you tell them that would prove them otherwise that diversity in the workplace does make a difference business-wise?
Yeah, well, it absolutely makes a difference because one, you want different perspectives and you want different, and there are people, whatever color you are, you work the same as anyone else, by the way. So it's not, so you might not bring any cultural thing to the project, but just your work talent alone brings to the project.
Yeah.
But the audience is changing, and the product you're creating, the audience watching it has changed, and you need to be in sync with that. So if I'm 62, so forget that I'm Black or a woman. If at 62, I'm creating a project for 22-year-olds, I am going to bring some, I'm going to bring some young 20-year-olds on board to get their perspective of it. And that's just a normal. I'm a woman. So I hope if you're doing a whole project about women, that it wouldn't just be all men talking about what they think women like, that you'd have an assortment and a range of women talking about, those things. So even though I'm Black, there's not one kind of a Black person. So even though I may say something, a completely different Black person may go, no, I'm the complete opposite to that. So the more variety you have, the more different kinds of people. I think it's very funny that there are sometimes companies that bring on one, like here's the one gay person, and the one gay person should know everything about all LGBTQ or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just think it's funny. The one Black person does not know everything about Black people. And so you need an array of different people with different experiences to bring that value to whatever content it is you're making, because the audience is going to respond to that.
And I think that's a great perspective, and I think a lot of people might overlook that and be like, oh, it won't make a difference, but at the end of the day, it's going to make a world of difference in your content and how people interact with your content. So that was actually my last question. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. You are a fantastic interviewer, by the way. You're so easy to talk to. And, some interviewers don't listen. It's clear that you are a listener. And that's 90% of, by the way, actors do.
Oh, yeah.
90% of acting is listening.
No, you had a lot of insight, and I really enjoyed your stories. And I felt like I personally learned from some of your experiences as well. So thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and have yourself.
Oh, you're welcome. So one last thing I'll say to people, go to Reelworld, REEL, realworld.ca, and you can see all our programs, and we hope to see some of you apply for them.